Sort of following suit with the last discussion, this particular session will discuss two cards that have instantly become a lot more playable with the update in regards to the ignition effect priority ruling. For those of you who don't know, what this means is you can no longer call priority for an ignition effect. An example of this would be Rescue Rabbit. You can no longer just summon Banish to whatever you're going to play, most likely Kabuzal, Sabersaurus, Elemental Hero Sparkman. You can't basically abuse Rabbit like that. They can actually respond with Effect Veiler or one of the cards I'm going to be talking about. Another example is Judgment Dragon. They can no longer just special Judgment Dragon, pay the 1,000, and destroy everything while you chain the card to try and respond. Basically, ignition effects are now slowed down to the extent that your opponent has to think about what they're doing. You can no longer, you still can, but it's not as severe, the amount of just summon, herp, derp, win. You can actually play around it now. Not saying you couldn't before. You could. You just had to hope that they didn't draw the nuts. It happens. Both these cards I'm going to discuss have seen light in the side and in some main decks as techs. The two cards themselves are, and on the 7th day he said, "Let there be light." The two cards are Bottomless Trap Hole and Compulsory Evacuation Device. If you don't know what they do, look it up. You're on the internet. You're on my YouTube channel right now, and you have access to Google in another tab, because I know you're running tabs. All browsers do anymore, so look up what they do. If you don't know what the cards' names are, look down below. I'll spell it for you. You can copy and paste it. It's that easy. Anyway, both of these cards have become instantly more playable. Why? Well, without ignition effects having priority, Bottomless Trap Hole laughs at Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. They can no longer just summon the dragon, you can chain Bottomless, and they can special summon a monster. No. They summon the dragon, you Bottomless the dragon goes bye-bye. Same thing with Judgment Dragon, Blackluster Soldier, Chaos Sorcerer, Dark Arm Dragon, Leviair. Compulsory Evacuation Device laughs at the smaller cards that Bottomless doesn't get to. So, Rescue Rabbit, Card Trooper, Lumina, and even Lone Fire Blossom. Even though Lone Fire isn't quite as relevant. But you get the idea. Basically now, these cards that deal with the meta without paying any form of life are now slowly lurking their way back into the forefront. And more so is the idea that, do you really have to pay 2,000 life points to deal with a card when you have life point free outs? With these two cards moving to the forefront, it's actually questionable to consider I'm not saying not run, but look at other cards to deal with monsters other than Solemn Warning. Before the ruling change, Solemn Warning was the only way to deal with a lot of cards that could abuse ignition effects like Rescue Rabbit and Red Eyes Darkness Metal. It was virtually staple, alongside Solemn Judgment as part of the Solemn Brigade. There was absolutely no reason not to run it. Now, with ignition priority gone, you can deal with cards without paying 2,000 life. Cards you cannot deal with are Tragodia or Gorse, but for the most part, you can deal with a lot of the problem cards. So, the question is Solemn Warning essential anymore? I'm not saying to drop it completely. I'm not saying to just, go straight into playing Compulse and Bottomless, but I am saying to look at your options and consider, do you want to pay that cost? Is it worth it? And more so, can you justify it in the long run? Say a game goes the distance. Which matters to you? Leave a comment down below saying if you think that dropping Warning is viable. Leave a comment down below saying if you like the fact that Bottomless and Compulse are getting more and more play. Elsewise, guys, this is BLS for Game signing off. Deuces.